we're going to explore some basic tools in Adobe XD. So they might somehow similar to Figma, right? But there's still some difference in the usage of the tool. So when we open this interface, we can see from here it provides with some common size for the phone, for the web, for the Instagram story, and of course you can also customize the size. So if we are designing the kiosk, we're going to enter a standard size for the kiosk. So for example, it's 600 by x100. So when we're done, we can click on it, and here is our artboard, right? So we can double click to rename it as kiosk, right? So you can see we still in Figma we call the working place frame, while in the Adobe XD we call it artboard, just the same thing as Illustrator, right? So a lot of shortcut key in XD is same to Illustrator, right? Because they are all belonging to Adobe Creative Clouds. So most of you may think probably it's more comfortable to work with Adobe XD because you already learned other Adobe software. Yeah, so let's get started. So first of all, the first thing is we can add a grid for the design, right? So from here, now is the layout. We can switch to square. Then we got some square grid on the artboard, right? So we can always resize it. The larger the number is, the larger the tiny square will be. So it's even larger. It's 20. Like you can try multiple times, and you can also add a layout grid, right? The layout is in the column. Yes, and you can still change this number, right, to get the result you want, right? So yes, but for this practice, we just use the square as our grid. Yeah. So we're also going to use the same reference image as what we did for the Figma, right? We're going to create the similar elements. The layout, we're going to follow this layout. So when you're creating the same thing, you can think about which software you're more comfortable to work with, right? Just experience both software doing the same thing. Yeah. So for here, what I can do is we can start with a rectangle. Yes, by following the grid is much easier. Then we just give it a round edge here. Yes, and also we can. It's already filled with white, right? So if you want to use other colors, you can still change the color from here. Yes. So for this practice, I'm just keep it white, and we can also apply with a drop shadow, right? So you can change the position of the drop shadow, and you can also change the blur, right? B stands for the blur, right? So anyway, I just keep these settings. So from here, we're going to start creating the smaller square inside it. So I'm going to do it in a different way comparing to what we did for the Figma, right? So I'm going to hold Shift key. I draw a box first, and I give it a round corner. So actually we got a larger size board here, so we really just want to increase the size a little bit, right? So here is the background square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color for the square, right? So you can still use this color, or if it doesn't have a nice contrast, you can choose another color. But yeah, so it's just a practice, so I just randomly pick a color. So in Figma, it will help you to auto-save all the color you already used for your creation, but the XD will not, which means when you use this color, you have to add it here, right? Just if you want to use it in other shape, other elements, you want to use the same color to keep the consistency, you can easily find it here, right? But you have to click on plus first, right? So that's some different comparing to Figma. So here is the background, so I get rid of the border. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create another square inside it. So basically we can just copy it, Command C, Command V, and hold Option Shift to make it shrink. So you cannot see it because they're the same color. So if I get a white, right, I got another square inside it. Then after that, I'm going to type in something, right? So I'm just going to name it as sauces, right? So we're going to change it. We can change it later, and we will change the we can change the size of the text. Probably that's too small. Yes, and we're going to make sure they are aligned with. So yes, here is the grid tool of Adobe XD, right? It works similar way with on the Figma. So always think about using the align tool to make your elements match, aligned with each other. So from here, we're not going to just copy and paste. Instead, here is a very helpful tool in XD, which is the repeat grid. So what we're going to do is, if we want to get copied these elements, we're going to select the text and both the two boxes, right? Select them together. What we're going to do is I'm going to turn on the repeat grid. So you can see I got a bounding box here, and I can drag the bounding box. You see it just automatically copied for me, but it's just more easier than copy paste several times. So we need 6 of them, right? And we can also just adjusting the distance by dragging here. Yeah, and we can make sure that they are horizontal aligned, right? Aligned well. Yeah, so now is the time to place the image into the box. So here what we're going to do is we're going to the Finder, and here are the image I already prepared, right? So I'm just going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or so this one is not in a good format, so I think it's in a wrong format, so it's not going to be selected. So I'm just going to select this 5. What I do is I drag everything inside. So just to make sure the smaller square turns to white. The white square turns to blue. Then I can just release my hand. What happening is I just import all of my image on each one of the small white square, right? So I can just import my image at one time, and they're following the grid. So they're just can display here one by one, Right, so I can also, so now you can see it seems like this burger has been cutted, and also this fries it has been cutted, the borders. So what we can do is we double click, we select on the bounding box, and we hold on Option Shift to make it shrink towards center. Right, double click, Option Shift to make it shrink towards center. Yeah, so now it seems like everything looks good. Then what we need to do, we just need to change the name of each under each photo, right? Probably this is not sauce, this is a burger, right? Then this is probably this is a size, and well, this is this is a burger too. So how about I just call it kids meal, right? Just a practice. So just enter something here, and this is sauces, and this is next is the drinks, and the next is the, we just call it breakfast some way, right? Yeah, and we will need to fix some of the layout here. So for this one, you can just give it some blank to make it okay, it's not working. Yeah, so actually sometimes it's hard to align the text when if you're creating the grid on them. So yeah, so actually I'm going to just type those text one by one individually, right? To make them better aligned with the elements. This. One. Drinks. Right, so now they can align with each other. Breakfast. Yeah, so now you can see we got a nice layout here, and we will, okay, so you can see the background is moving. We want it to fix on the screen. So from here, we click on this icon to select the layer, and we will lock the layer by clicking on this little locker. Right, so in this way I can select all these elements, Command G to group them. Right, and unlock it again, just to make sure everything is aligned, right? Yeah, and if I don't need that, I can lock it again, right? So now I need the 2 arrow here. So I'm going to use the line tool. If I hold on Shift, I will get a straight line, and I use the selection tool to double click. I'm able to add a center point. Hold on Shift to drag, right? So that's a easier way to create an arrow that is in symmetrical. So we're going to give it a round corner. Right from here, we can decide how you want your stroke to look like. Want it a round corner. You can see the changes here, and I want to increase the width of the stroke, so I change the size into 3 or something, right? So still I type V to go back. I can go back to the selection tool. But you can see the shortcut key is just very same. Most of them are same comparing with the with the Illustrator, right? So I want to hold on Shift key and I rotate it. Yes, and I Command C, Command V, copy another one. I'm going to hold on Shift key to drag it to here, and I'm going to use the flip tool here to flip it, right? So that's a really quick. Yes, you can see the smart guides just to show you that the distance should be even, right, with the image, just to make sure the layout looks nice. Yeah, so probably I think this process is faster than how we did that in Illustrator. In Figma. Right. So for this part is much more easier. The first, we're still using the repeat grid, right? So first we create a box and we give it a round corner and we fill in with the color we want. And you can see I can just pick color from here, right? And the same thing is I'm going to Command C, Command V, hold on Option Shift to shrink it towards the center. Yeah. So which is means we're going to place image at this area. So actually I'm going to turn it into white and I'm going to get rid of the border. And I'm going to use the text tool to pick king $4. Okay. $4. Yes, I'm going to display here. Yes, and I can change the color if I want. Also, I can change the typeface here, right? I want a bold. I want a bold fonts. Yeah. So now you can see I'm going to ensure the alignment, right? That's what we're always going to do. No, just want it to be vertical line. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I want to get rid of the borders, and I need several copy of this. So I create a repeat grid, right? And I just drag the thing I need. So I just need 3, and I can just do 3 so far. So I can adjust the distance, right, and adjust the distance here. I see this is 51. Okay, so just to make sure we got the good spacing here. Yeah, so when you're ready, we can import the image here. So for the example here, I just use the same image, right? So but in your kiosk design, probably you will need 9 different images and drag them once together into the white space here. So actually I'm going to drag this. I'm going to use the same image, right? And just suppose they're all burger, so drag it here. Just make sure you saw the first white space turns to blue, and you can drop your image here, right? So that has been displayed very nicely. And click here. So if I click once, I can take one of the image here. So if I'm holding Option Shift and shrink, you can see I'm changing all the size of everything here, right? All the image change together because they are belonging to the same repeat grid. But if I just want to change this one, I'm going to double click again, then I'm holding Option Shift to shrink it, right? For the fresh press, double click 2 times, shrink it, right, until you think the layout looks nice. Yeah, so for the practice, I'm not going to change the text. Right, but for your cascade design, you should make everything looks real, right? So now let's quickly do this part. It's quite easy, right? It's very easy. We just do a rectangle and we apply it with the top shadow, right? Yeah, and we need a circle, and make sure the circle is aligned with the vertical aligned with the rectangle, right? Then we can use the Pathfinder tool to unite. Yes, it's quite huge, but we just keep like this. Yeah, and then we can just steal this arrow, Command C, Command V, and I'm going to drag another one here, right? So these processes are just exactly the same thing with Figma. So yes, it's quite tiny. Hold on the Shift key to rotate, right? Oh, okay. The reason why I cannot select here is because this arrow seems like it's at the back of the shape. So right click, bring to front. Okay. Right click, bring to front. So hold on Shift, select this, hold on Shift to rotate. Let's make it aligned. And we can also hold Option Shift to increase the size, right? So when you're increasing elements, you can hold down Option Shift to keep it shrinking or enlarge from the center, right? So if you're not holding the Option key and just simply shrink it, it's off space. It's not working well. Yeah, so for the button, it's just super easy, right? We just need exactly the same thing we did in Figma, and do that really cool. Okay, I just used the right. We just yes, whenever you got a new color used on Figma, in XD, you will need to hit add, right? So you will need to use that later in other design. It's more convenient. So let's add some text. But I'm going to do this part real quick because it's very easy. Order now. Okay, so I'm going to use the shortcut key, right? It's still, so the shortcut key is still T, right? So a lot of things are similar to Illustrator, so I guess you will feel more comfortable to work with Adobe XD. Somehow like this. Change some color. Change the text, right? So for this part, it's still quite easy. Just use the stroke line, hold on Shift, so you got a straight line here, and we increase the width of the stroke. Right. So if you want to decrease the length, hold on Option Shift. So it's moving towards the center, right? And Yes, and you can shrink the size of the text. Yes, and yeah, just to make sure that they're aligned. Yeah, so this part is quite easy, right? Aligned with this part. Okay, yeah, so so if you want to import Illustrator elements, it's quite easy. So this is your original Illustrator file. The only thing you need to do is copy, Command C, go to the XD, Command V, right? Because they all belonging to Adobe Creative Suite, so the process become very easy. Display at horizontal center. Yeah, so what if I want to get a icon, a go back icon, but I do not want to draw it myself. I want to use the free UI kit. So in Figma we did the explore community, right? We can search for the elements we want. In Adobe XD, where we're going to the plugins. So I already insert those plugins, right? Both. But if you are not, you will going to add, discover plugins. You can explore these free XD you can use, right? So for me, I just installed this one, right? And you installed this one. If you are not, you can get it, right? And so for example, I want to use this one. I will get it. Just click OK. Then when getting back to Adobe XD, let's see if it has been imported yet. No, probably it will take a while, but you will eventually see it here, right? You can see now we got it, right? So for your plugins, you can just click to open it. Plugin. Okay, how about let's try. Oh, okay, this one works better. So you can scroll down. You can see here are all the free icons you can use. Right. What you can also do is you can search the icon that you want. For example, I like let's see, I want an arrow. I want a go back arrow. So you can see we got a lot of options for the go back arrow, right? So we just pick one we like, right? And we can just put it in our design, and you are feeling free to change the color to match with your own brand identity, right? Yeah, so this is a way we can use some free materials in Adobe XD without drawing out ourselves. Yeah, so the next, let's talk about how to do a horizontal scroll and a vertical scroll, right? In my opinion, it's easier than Figma. So first, we're going to drag out more, or we just copy them, and yeah, just suppose there are different elements. We're going to select both. We said I want a scroll group, right? And it will just provide you with a bounding box here. But don't worry, those elements are still there. They just need you to scroll to see them. So for this box, I can decide that I only want to show this area on the screen, right? The content will be showing up in this area, and once I horizontal scroll, I can see the rest of them. Then I guess we can just, that's it, and I think we can test it by clicking here. Okay, it's a quite small screen, but it still works well, right? We can do a horizontal scroll. So it's the same story with the vertical scroll, right? We can just drag to add more options here, and yeah, and we can set I want a vertical scroll, right? And I can drag the bounding box to decide the area I want to show my elements is here. Yeah, so now we can test it. Yeah, here we go. It's vertical scroll and horizontal scroll, right? So in my opinion, it's easier than how XD works. Yeah, so next let's create a pop-up menu, right? Or a pop-up message or a drop-down menu. So they're using the same technique, right? So we have done the same thing in Figma. So let's see how to do that in XD. First of all, we're going to use the artboard tool to create an artboard. So just depends on how large you want your pop-up menu to be, right? I think probably I'm just a demo with this size, right? I can add some of the elements here just to inform that here are some contents. Yeah, so if I want to copy it, I can just use the repeat grid, so I can get more elements here, can get more options here, and we can say we can do a vertical scroll, right? So later on we will test that. So I want to so if I want to build a navigation, we're going to the prototype here, right? So I want to say when I click on order, this menu pop up. So it's the same thing as Figma, we just drag a noodle here and to connect both elements. The trigger is tap, right? When I tap the button, what happening is the type I change from transition into overlay. So I just want the artboard to overlay the design, right? Overlay. Then here appears a green box. It just asks me to decide where I want to place my pop-up menu. So probably I will drag it down here. Yeah. So I decide the position. So actually I want to change my menu. I want to change the background for my menu. Now it's white, so it will not stand out very well. So I changed the artboard fill into probably a light gray, right? Just to make sure it's standing out. So I go back to the prototype. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see the interaction here. Right, it will appear from here, and actually I can add a animation. I can say that I want this box to slide up, right? Slide up from the bottom. Yeah, so let's see what's happening. So kiosk test here. So I click on order. Oh, there is my menu showing up, right? But I can click outside to turn off it. I turn off it, right? And I can also scroll it, right? Because I set a vertical scroll for the elements. I'm going to close it. It seems like the background doesn't stand out more, but I can always adjust the color of the background. Let's see if it looks much better or not. Yes, so now it just stands out. Yeah, so this is how we do a pop-up menu, and we can close it. So now let's talk about how you do the go back. Create a go back button and do a go back interaction. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the artboard, build another blank page. Simply click here and you got another page. Click here, you got another page with the same size, right? Yeah, so going to Command C, Command V, click on the title, Command V, so the button will paste in the correct position. Right, I'm going to just randomly draw anything. Draw another thing. So these steps are very similar to Figma. Just inform there are different pages. So now I'm going to click on the button here and I'm going to set up the prototype. So I'm going to double click on the circle. So it allows me to only set up for this button. The trigger is tap. The tab is not overlay. We want it to be, when I tap it, it leads me back to the previous artboard. Right, so after that, it's done. So the thing of Figma, the thing of XD is, if we copy, let's see if we can copy the navigation command. Click Command C, Command V. Yes, so if you want to copy the navigation, you have to do that in the prototype page, right? To copy the same navigation, go back to the previous page. Right, so if you copy from the design page, it will not copy the navigation. You will need to reset the things again. So now let's test if it works. So let's try to say if I tap on the first burger, it leads me to the next page. Tab, so the tabs will be just a transition, right? Because we don't move to this page. And the animation, you can think about it, want it to slide right, slide up, left, or just a normal. If you just want it to be normal, just dissolve, right? So you can decide what kind of animation you want to try. Dissolve. Click on this button, leads me to the next page. I will just keep the settings. Okay, so now let's try to test if the go back button is working well. Yeah. Click, back. Okay, so you can see it works pretty nice. Yeah, so the next, let's do a hovering button. So it's the same thing with what we practice for Figma, but it's quite different when we're doing it here. So let's go back to the design page here, right? So if we select both the text and the button, we said I want to add a component, edit. Then it's just like your first frame, right? I'm going to add my second animation frame, add state, but it's called state, new state. Sorry, so let's delete this state. So I'm going to add the next state. You can see here is the hover state, right? So on the hover state, I can decide what color this button should change to. So I'm going to say another color and change the color for the text. Okay, so now we got a hover state and we will go to the prototype and I'm going to set, you can see we got a hover effect applied. Yes, the trigger is hover, the tab is alt and animate. The hover state is the destination is it turns to the hover state, right? The hover state is look like this. It's in a different color, right? Yeah, so that means I got everything set up. So let's see if the hovering is working. Okay, why it's changed the color? It's changed the color for me. I'm going back. See. Oh yes, I have to select back the default state. Okay, so now it works. I'm hovering on the button, right? Yeah, also the same thing with Figma is the same thing with Figma in XD is whenever you create a component, I'm going to steal this button, go back to the design page, and C Command V, paste it somewhere. So if this element is a component, right, select them all, right click, make component. So when I copy these elements and use it in multiple pages, right, I will use it a lot of times. If I change my idea, I want to change the color of the design, I can just change it on one of the component. Then everything else will change together. Right, so that's the same thing with the sticker. The sticker sheet we talked about for Figma. It works in the same way. As you can see, everything is changing together. Yeah, so the next thing we want to talk about is let's just do some normal practice with the icon, right? It's a short practice. I'm going to draw another artboard and I'm going to set the grid, right? Another grid. So it's too large. So you can build the icon in Adobe XD, or you can do that in Illustrator and copy what you create into XD in a really fast way, right? And basically the pen tool also works in the same way as Illustrator, right? Yeah, so you have a lot of ways to create icons, and you can also search for icons from plugins, right? So we're just going to do some simple practice just in case you want to design your own. Right, so here we're going to do a simple house, right? So I'm going to use the fill and I'm going to deselect the border. So I'm going to double click by using the selection tool, and it will allow me to add a anchor point at the center. I hold on the shift key and drag the anchor point, so I get a roof. So my roof is too short, so I hold on shift, select both two sides of the anchor point and drag it down, right? Yeah, and I need a open area here. Yes, and I deselect the border, and I can select both shape, and I will do a subtract, right? So subtract the foreground shape from the background. Work the same way with the Illustrator, right? Yeah, and you just feel free to adjust those edges, drag the anchor points, right? So this is quite easy one. So let's do another one, which I want to do a bell. So I will start with a rectangle like this. Okay, like this. What we can do is I'm going to fill with black, so it's clearly. Double click and select, add another anchor point, and I'm going to drag this anchor point down over here, right? And I'm going to, if I double click on this anchor point, you can see I got a curve line here, right? And I can just play with I can just drag the handle, make it somehow placed in here, and I can drag another point, drag it like this. Yes, and I need to double click here, right? Double click, you can get rid of the harsh edges to get a curve, and I can just drag the handle right to make it in. Yes, so in this way I got a nice smooth curve line. Yes, and I can hold on shift key, select both point, and just kind of shrink it here, and we can Command C, Command V, and I'm going to flip it. Okay, flip it. Okay, Command C, Command V, flip it, and drag. Now we got a full, we got a really nice file, right? And we can unite them by using the Pathfinder. So if we want a circle at the bottom, we can do that also, right? We can still unify the two shapes, right? So this is also a really nice and easy one, right? So now let's do an envelope, the icon of an envelope. Start with a rectangle. Okay, I'm always going to fill with color and get rid of the borders, and I'm going to use another square, and I'm going to rotate it. Somehow make the 2 points meet. Yes, then I'm going to copy, hold on Option Shift, drag another one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the two Pathfinder tool. The first one I will use the subtract, so it's just a subtract the foreground shape, and the second one I'm going to use the intersect, which is only keep the intersected part. Yes, so in this way I can just display it like this, leaving some space between them. Yes, so it makes nice grid icons, right? So just if you want to design a Kai icon, just play with the shape, play with the anchor point, drag the handles, right? Yes, I believe you're already very familiar with the pen tool, right? So we only demo for 3 icons, just make you to feel, to experience XD, so you can decide which one works more comfortable to you. Yeah, so if you want to share, whenever you want to share your project, you can hit share here, right? And here allows you to create a link, and you can decide the link exercise, right? Access. Anyone with the link can view, or only invited people, or only anyone with password, right? Once you decide, you can create the link. Yes, and at last you will get a link here, and if you copy the link, right, and paste it into a browser, everyone who has the link can try with your design, right? Yeah, so these are some commonly used tools for Adobe XD, and I believe they are enough for creating a kiosk, right? So you can just think about which Figma you like Figma more and or Adobe XD more, and you can start with your project. Yeah,